Hi, my name's Bull, and I'm the master of the amateur cowboy. Where is that guy? Oh, here he comes. Well, I'm sure I didn't fool you with that. That was my voice. It wasn't Bull talking to you like Mr. Ed. But I am Mark. I'm the amateur cowboy. And with my horse Bull here today, kind of a windy day. And got the evil blue tarp here in my left hand. You know, last fall I was up in the mountains of Colorado. I had 2 or 3 horses with me, including Bull here. And I ran into these guys that I refer to affectionately as the mulers. Guys a little bit older than me, very experienced, and they ride mules instead of horses. And that provided for a lot of interesting conversations. Great guys, great animals, mules. I am partial to horses, but I know the guys that like mules wouldn't have it any other way. And the reason I'm telling this story is because one day I was standing there in their camp just chatting away, and one of them, his name's Vinny, he pulled out a tarp and he just started pulling it all over his mule's eyes and ears, and he could do anything he wanted with that tarp, and that mule just stood there like it didn't matter at all. And you know, it was clear to me that Vinny had worked with his mule quite a bit on that, because these animals, whether it's a mule or a horse, don't take so well to these types of tarps without some practice. And so I thought today it'd be fun to do a little bit of work with Bull and the blue tarp. Now, in full openness, he's been worked with the tarp before, both with the tarp on the ground, going over it, as well as me doing things with the tarp on his back. You know, I'd like to think that I could shoot a bazooka off this horse's back and he would be okay with it. And that's probably not where we are today, but we're working toward it. He has been shot off of before. I've got pictures of him with a cowboy shooting off of him in a contest. But the tarp goes a long way to sort of building that trust, getting him used to weird noises and things up above him and on top of him. And you know, I do like to hunt, and I think about one day I might bring down a deer or an elk, and for whatever reason I might have to turn this horse into a pack horse. And so getting him used to stuff like this on his back, you know, because if I had an elk on his back and I had to cover it with a tarp, I wouldn't want to be dealing with that for the first time out in the woods. So a lot of good reasons to do this kind of thing. If nothing else, it'll improve your horse skills. So you can probably tell the wind's blowing quite a bit. Now, I like to start with the tarp sort of folded up. It's a lot less intimidating that way. And it's like anything that you want to get your horse used to, whether it's a saddle blanket or a brush. You know, you just kind of, first of all, let them smell it. Horses get a lot of information about the world around them through their nose. And I can tell a story about that too. When I was hunting last fall with a couple buddies, they had me go up a hillside while they went down through a draw, and there was about 6 inches of snow on the ground. And there were some tracks around for various animals, including other horses, but we were kind of up there where there weren't too many people. And you know, Bull took me up this mountain, and we didn't go too far, maybe a mile, and then we came back down because we couldn't get through where we wanted to go. And so I decided to backtrack and catch up with my buddies. Well, every time we came to some tracks through the snow, Bull would put his nose down and you know, sniff it, and if it wasn't our tracks, he was like, that doesn't matter. And the second we hit the tracks that my buddies had left on their horses, he was like a hound dog. He had his nose in those tracks, and off we went. And you know, he was, you know, trotting along with a purpose at that point, because he knew he was on the scent of his buddies. So it's amazing what a horse can do with their nose. And I like to share that story because a lot of people haven't experienced that kind of thing before. That was the first time it happened for me, and it was really cool. So Bull's kind of smelled the tarp, and you know, he'll smell it again. Kind of curious. Was wondering what's Mark going to do with that tarp. And I like to just kind of go easy and then pull it away. Now, you know, I mentioned earlier that I've done this kind of thing with him before. what you just saw there, the first time you do this with your horse, he probably won't be that good. Bull wasn't. It took me quite a while, 15 minutes, maybe half an hour, before I could kind of, you know, he's still looking at it, but he kind of knows, oh, that's just that blue tarp. That's not a big deal. You know, I always like to bump it against the legs a little. They're you know, horses are sensitive down there. They can't really see very well, so, you know, he seems pretty confident. Now, I'm on the left side, and I'm guilty like most of us. I spend too much time over here and not enough time on the right side of the horse. So I'm going to go to my neutral position where I'm not telling Bull to do something. This is the at ease, you know, posture, if you will. So I'll just kind of mosey on over. Now I'm on the upwind side, but it's also his right side. And Bull's a little more sensitive out of this right eye than the left eye. And that's because like I said, I'm guilty of spending too much time over there on the left side. So, you know, I'm going to let this wind just kind of bump this thing into him. I think I'll move him over just a hair so we get in the center of the camera. There we go, Bull. You know, and that's the kind of thing right there. Can you move your horse left or right half a step? Can you move their front end or their back end and put it exactly where you want it? A nice little exercise, and we should do it on tape sometime, is to take a little piece of rope or twine and make a circle. It might be a foot across starting out. And you work to see how you can get each foot of your horse one at a time into that circle without getting frustrated and without the horse getting upset. And then you make that circle smaller, and you keep making it smaller and smaller until it's about the size of a hoof. And when you can do that with all 4 feet, and it's easy and it doesn't take a lot of time and nobody gets upset, I'd say that's pretty good. So what I want to do now is kind of treat this like a saddle blanket. You know, I'm watching Bull now. I want to make sure he's not going to get upset. Now there goes that head. So I'm gonna back off and just say, okay, that was good. He didn't blow up. He didn't run away, but he gave me a sign. He said, I don't think I'm comfortable yet with that. And it's good for us to listen to our horses. Watch them, read their ears, read their eyes, watch that head position. It goes up the second they get upset or start wondering about something. So kind of try it again. Let them know it's all right. There. Now, that was much better. Now he's blinking. That's telling me he's okay. And the ears, they're coming back, but that's just checking me out. They're not pinned. They're not overly worried. And so now I just pull it away again. I wish it weren't quite so windy, because the wind adds to the, you know, the scariness of the tarp as we start to open it up. So, like I said at the beginning, I like to start with it small. You know, let them smell. You're not too interested now. What I'd like to do is to start opening this up, but again, I got to keep an eye on my horse and make sure he's not getting upset. How we doing, Bull? We okay with that? Yeah. Now right there, that's nice. He's just kind of looking back here, and he's not worried. He's just curious. And I think he's thinking in his head, oh, I've been through this before. You can see him licking and chewing. So, again, it's really windy. And I want to make sure that as I go, I don't overdo it. People talk about desensitizing a horse. There's 2 avenues toward that. There's what's called flooding, which is where you basically scare the horse to the point where they can't be scared anymore. They've just had enough and finally realize something's not going to kill them, and then they just accept it. That is not what we're doing. This is not about, I love that sound. This is not about making the horse afraid to the point where they finally just accept something. This is letting them, through their own curiosity and thought process, figure something out without getting too scared, so that they finally go, oh, that's not a big deal. So something just caught his attention. It's those 3 horses. They're running out of that gate for some reason. You can't see him. I got 3 other geldings here, and a car drove by, and for some reason they decided to move out of there pretty quickly. But everything seems to be back to normal, except for the wind. It's blowing like crazy. So I don't think we're going to do too much more here. I think you get the idea. Eventually, if it weren't so windy, I'd have this tarp unfolded and on his back and eventually try to pull it over his head. I think we'll save that for another day when the wind's not blowing so hard. So, Bull, come on up and woo! Say hi to the camera, Bull. There we go. Anyway, I'm Mark, Amateur Cowboy. Thanks.